Hello, this is Paula Casson. I'm from SnapComms North America, and welcome to our webinar today, October 23rd, 2013. And I'm here to give you a bit of an overview of our software, to give you enough information about our employee visual messaging tool so that you can decide if it might be something with value, that has value for your company. So let's get right into it. I'm going to start out with a little bit of an overview in this slide deck. I do have the software up and running on my computer, so we'll get in and show you some examples from an audience point of view as well later on. But let's get going. Oh, and before I start, I had to look through the attendee list. I always ask, what kind of case studies are you interested in? Which of the tools are most important? And the people that did respond told us that it's the alert tools, the cut-through tools that they want to hear about the most. And they're looking for use cases around IT communications and also corporate communications. So that's what I'll focus on today. Thanks so much. Okay, so SnapComms, really our tools, our visual messaging tools are all about helping people with this problem. So this is a modern age problem in our information-rich age where there's so much information out there within the company and without. How do you make sure things cut through? More and more people have that issue. There's intranets, there's social media tools, and there's email, but you still can't get key information through oftentimes because it's competing with so much else. So we came up back when we started with, we took existing technology, things like pop-up alerts, screensavers, ticker news feeds, but we've optimized them for employee broadcast. And what that means is the sender has a lot of control. We integrate with existing distribution lists so you don't have to create new ones. And you get reporting and measurement and tracking so you can tell if the messages that you're pushing out there are successful or not. So here are the 6 different channels that we have. We call them like a channel, a media channel, if you will. Different ways to get visual content out in front of your audience inside your organization. And you'll see on the left, these are the ones I'll start with. We've got our pop-up alerts, our ticker news feeds, and our pop-up quiz surveys. Those 3 are all about cut-through. And then complementing that, you'll see the other 3 tools that we have. We have our newsletter tool for consolidating lots of information. And our screensaver wallpaper tool, those are great for that information that's important but not time sensitive. It's okay if they learn that information or absorb it or act on it over time. So these are the main types of visual messaging you can do with our software. It all works on the same platform. And I've just described really what's on this slide. They have different sort of sweet spots in terms of the kind of content you put in them. But here too, you'll see we do have some variations. For example, the alert tool, we have a particular alert that can showcase video, drive up views of any strategic videos you have. We have a meeting invite tool. So there's more variations behind these main categories, if you will. Now, I'm going to get in and show you some examples of all these tools. But before I do, these are some of our existing customers. And we are relatively IT friendly. We have several different technical solutions that you can choose. And we are very much focused on the enterprise environment, as you'll see with some of these names. Hopefully you'll recognize some of these. So we are IT friendly. We're very much set up for an enterprise environment, and we're not going to impact the network badly. And you will find one of our solutions that meets your security requirements as well. Okay. So let's get into it. Pop-up alerts, that's the sort of the heart and soul, the easiest one to get, probably the most popular tool that we have, the one that people need the most. And our tool will give you so many options in terms of how you can get a pop-up out. So let's just start with one particular situation. So here, this is a screenshot of a pop-up alert, and you can send these to just layer on top of whatever active screen your employees are working on. And have that show in the corner. Make it be an invite. Hey, we've got some information for you or something you need to act on. Read now, read later. Now the sender decides when it shows up, what it looks like, what the content is. You can also preset how long it's on screen. If they don't do anything with it, when are we going to send it back to those stragglers who haven't actually launched that message and read it? So there's lots and lots of ways that you can fine-tune the visual display to match the importance of what you have to say. In this case, open enrollment, maybe you'd want to send this over a week, once a day. Maybe you set it for every 8 hours or every 6 hours, and you set it up for 4 days. Or maybe you have an IT outage notice or an emergency. Those can be sent through with more frequency. And just a second example here. This black example, you can see this is a branded example. This is a template that one of our customers uses. And this is one of our alerts that will showcase video. If you have great video content, oftentimes you struggle with the intranet or email to get people to actually go and watch these videos. We can drive up those views, and we've seen corporations use this to get information out much faster than they would if they used traditional channels. So now, our alert tool, here's a little bit more insight into what you could do with it. We have people using them for emergencies. They can send something directly in the middle of the screen like this. You can send things that go full screen. We have people using it for lockdown or critical situations where they really want people to leave. Send something full screen, ensure they can't keep working, they need to go. And let's get on to some use cases for this tool. This is Starwood. Their vacation ownership division uses our software. They're based at a few sites, but the main site's down in Florida, in Orlando. Now, during Hurricane Irene a couple of years ago, they used it to keep their contact center people. So these are all their people who are on the phones talking to customers. They're talking to their timeshare owners who are, heading to the Jersey Shore for their week's holiday, and the Hurricane Irene coming up the coast. So they used it to keep their reps completely up to date in terms of the change of processes. Here's what's being affected. Here's what you need to do if somebody calls in about A, B, or C. So they used it, and they were able to maintain really high customer service levels. It made it so much easier for them to get all the changing status and changing processes out to their people during this emergency critical type event. So that's one way we see a lot of people using it. If you have a situation, whether it's a product recall or a huge system change, if you have these situations where email is just going to be too slow, manager cascade is also too slow, then this is a great way to do it. All right, let's look at another one. Okay, this is one of my favorite use cases too, slightly different. So this is about a division in HP based out of their Conway Center in Arkansas. This is an outbound sales division, and instead of using it for well, let's see, I guess it's somewhat similar. They use it for a strategic initiative, an internal strategic initiative, and they'll set up a series of messages around over 3 weeks to really showcase what's going on. And what they do, this division has sales blitz days. Every few months they'll have a very specific outbound campaign to qualified leads. Certain products are going to be discussed. And they will send out pop-up video alerts, messages from their executives, messages from their strategic partners, and they will also send out whiteboard training videos. So they use video extensively, and they build awareness. They transfer that knowledge that people need to really be successful on this Blitz Day. And then here, this one here, they'll send out knowledge check quizzes. They use our pop-up quiz tool to just get a sense of how people, are they ready or not. And they also tie it into some of their their on-site physical activities. This little pop-up here, quiz winners round 1. So after the quiz, they get all the responses back, they go through the reports, they see who submitted the correct answers, etc. This is just a pop-up here that they sent out, and the winners get to go to Joe's office for a dartboard throw. They have a dartboard, different prizes on different parts of the dartboard, so they get to see what kind of prize they won. So they use these tools to tie that in. So the HP example is all about, if you have a strategic initiative or something very critical to your business where there's a behavior change that you really need, you can use our tools to drive that, set up an internal campaign over several weeks, and make that much more effective than you can do with email or intranets. Yeah. Okay, so next one, outages, IT outages. Now we all hope, all of us really never want to have an IT outage, but just inevitably you have one. And if it's something that's long enough to impact the business, it can be so difficult to get people's attention. You send out an email, half of them don't hear it, don't read it. They're on the phone trying to get to the help desk when you already know about this issue and it's under action. So we do have a lot of companies that will use our pop-up alert tool to get a notice out to let people know that IT is aware of the issue, they're working on it. And of course what that does, that reduces the load on the help desk. People see that there's an issue, they're not going to try and call the help desk, and they can get on to other work. So it's just fabulous if you have an outage where you really don't know how fast you can fix it. Give people a little notice, and then when it's over, send them a second notice letting them know, okay, email's back online or whatever it might be. So that's one way we see it used. And the pop-ups, the examples I have here, this is you can see an old Virgin Media. They're a retail chain, cell phone stores in the UK. This is just the kind of an old example from one thing that they actually did send out. And also Safeway is a customer of ours too. They use it in their corporate headquarters and out to their store managers. So for the store managers, that's the primary use is outages. Their command center uses it to get outage notices out. Okay, now I think I have two more examples just of alert use cases. And really what I'm trying to do here, show you different, show you these alerts, some screenshots, different visuals, and give you some stories about how you might use them. Hopefully you have already in your head some ideas about where your pain points are, what's not cutting through, what kind of stuff would it make sense for you to put in these channels. But another one that's worth mentioning is policy changes, process changes. Oftentimes there's changes where you legally have to get some sort of an answer from all your employees, or it really is going to impact the business if they don't shift what they're doing. Either it's just risk mitigation, or it really affects their daily work. So you can, instead of just sending out a pop-up alert that has text in it or hyperlinks to drive them to your intranet, you can also ask for a response, right? So the ones I've shown you today are really getting that information in front of them in a much better way. Now, this one you can ask for, you can also set these up and ask them to acknowledge that information, ask them to click OK, or ask them to, in this little example I have here, I've customized some answers. Yes, I understand. No, I don't understand this change. I do want someone to contact me. It's really up to you. You can set up our tools so that any answer, whatever kind of answer you need, you can customize these. And also, we can extend out to mobile devices. This is a screenshot of my Android client serving up that same message. So here's the message on the computer, and on the phones we'd send through a push notification like any other app on the phone, and then when they see that, they'll launch the application and they'll get that message too. This can be great if you have people who are roaming, or everybody's got more than one device nowadays, and if you want to be able to reach them on whatever device is in their hands at that moment, that can be achieved with our alerting tool. All right, now this I'm pretty sure is the last one. Keep throwing more stuff in here, but daily updates. We do see people using our alerts, our tools in general, maybe for a weekly manager update. In this case, it's performance stats for the customer service division. These are the numbers that everybody's incented on. So every evening, they pull together the stats for the day, put them into an alert. When employees show up the next day and they log into their computer, they can review these. It's really crucial information for them, for everyone to know. So that'll be the first thing they see when they log in on the computer. They'll get their little corner prompt and they can go and review the service levels quickly. So that's another way to use these, regular updates. Third example of regular updates, a lot of hospitals will send out daily capacity. They'll send out the numbers across the hospital. Hey, we're at 98% capacity in terms of patients today. We're at 75. That gives people a bit of a flag as to how busy it's going to be, what kind of a day they're going to have there. Right, so ticker scrolls, these are used in a very similar way to alerts. You know, they are going to capture people's attention. You're going to get that information absorption. You're going to get that cut through that you need. And let me just see. I believe what I'm going to do is pull up an existing ticker here. So this, what I've just done, this here in my taskbar is the SnapComms client, and every device for your audience, for your employees, whether it's a phone or a PC or a Mac, every device has a small piece of software running on it. That's how we track your users. That's how we're able to visually display things to them. That's how we're able to measure and pass back data to you about what happened. So I just clicked on my SnapComms icon. This is sort of the list of all the messages that have been sent out to me as an employee. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to look at one again. So this news for the week is an example of a ticker, a generic one you can see. This is a multi-headline ticker, and I just went, I wanted to have a look at it again. It's already visually displayed on my screen, but in this case I just manually pulled it up so you could see one working. So this is running very smoothly on my screen. I like to mention that because sometimes with GoToWebinar or any sort of screen share, there's a little bit of lag. Hopefully it's smooth on your screen too. But here you can see we have a headline, and it's hyperlinked to more information, and that's the beauty of the ticker. You could leave this on screen all day. You could say, hey, show these headlines 3 times, if they don't click on them, send it back later. And you can hyperlink these, drive people to that information on the internet that is really crucial they see, and you're just not getting the eyes on it. You're not getting that change. And this one too, this is rather sophisticated. A lot of people will just send out a single headline. You know, it's something really important that merits being shown. This example here you can see has several headlines. We see that too. A lot of corporate communications teams will consolidate some of the most important news, send that out maybe once a week. It really depends on the organization. But I just wanted to show you this. You can categorize what the headlines are about, get them out once a day, once a week, once a month. It really depends on the kind of information you have. But really, all of that's possible. Just, you know, if you can imagine a way for a ticker to display on screen, hey, I want it to do A, B, and C, and I want it to do that, we can probably do that. We really have a lot of tools. And what I did while I was talking was just I clicked on this link here, Countdown to New Product Launch, and it's just, you can see I'm going through to a web page, but you know, if you put in an intranet page, that's going to work too for you. Okay, so I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to close this ticker, and let's move on a bit. So that blue ticker I just had up was showing you how you can hyperlink to an existing resource, whether it's a file on a shared drive or an intranet resource. You can certainly do that. You just put in the URL and point people to wherever you want them to go. You can also send out tickers like this one that's on my screen now, where you have branding across a matching text box. That's great if if there's a situation and there's information you really need people to act on, and it's not on the intranet, well, no problem, just set it up this way. Okay, and I've got a bunch of examples here of how we see customers using the ticker tool, and they're pretty much parallel to the pop-up alert use cases. This is a energy company in New England that uses it internally, and when they had storms, which storm was it? Oh goodness, they used it for weather as well. You know, they had power outages during that snowstorm that hit the New York area, Pennsylvania, etc. And so they used the ticker to let people know what was going on. Hey, this is the new ETA for this region. They kept their contact centers up to date, but they kept everyone in the company really up to date on what the latest was. So again, you're talking about situations that are where it's really important stuff gets out fast. Now, IT outages, we talked about them before. Planned outages, though, is another fabulous way to use our tools. Earlier I talked about unplanned outages, But for planned outages, you know you're taking down a server, or you're taking SAP down, or you're upgrading email, whatever it might be. So our tools will give you the ability, 20 minutes or 30 minutes, it's 11 o'clock on a Saturday, 11 p.m., you can get a notice out if anybody's working remotely, if anybody's, if you're in a 24/7 type of industry business, send them out a notice. Hey, we're taking this down in half an hour. Please log out. Please stop using it. The great thing about this, most companies are sending out planned outage notifications in email, and over time people are absolutely immunized to them. They see so many, they stop listening. They just they hardly read them. And then they complain that they didn't know. When it affects them, they'll complain that they didn't know. With our tool, if you send it out using something visual like this, you can give them a lifespan of an hour or half an hour. Anybody who's affected, actively working on their computer, they'll see them. And then when the situation's over, all you have to do is expire them, or you preset an expiry date and time. So people who are not affected by that outage see nothing. It didn't affect them, so why send them a message? Our tool, because we're just going to be visually displaying these to people who are actively on their devices, it's a great way to get the word out to the people who are going to be affected and need to know, and not bother the ones who don't need to know. So I love that one. Sorry, I always dwell on that one, but I think it's such an efficient way to get those kind of notices out and keep everybody productive. And then tickers. I've got a screenshot here of a multi-headline ticker. We've seen people use it across divisions. Let's consolidate all the notices that our retail staff need to know, or our sales division, into one ticker that goes out once a day or once a week. So we see that kind of thing. Another use case, we've seen CEOs use it to put out a headline about their new blog post, and trying to reach out to those offices that are remote, where they just don't have much connection. They want engagement with their employees in the remote offices. Well, that's a great way to do it, once a week, twice a week. Send out that kind of a post, showcase what the information you've got, and you'll very much drive higher readership and interaction if you have comments, that kind of thing. So they just drive that interaction using the ticker. That's how they trigger it, essentially. So now, that's the alert, that's the ticker. You get a sense of what you can do with those. How does this all work? Let me just talk about that briefly. So I mentioned before, there's a piece of software. We call it a client when it's on the PC or the Mac. We call it an app if it's on the phone. Essentially, you've got a piece of software that gets installed on all the end user devices. So whoever you want as your audience, you get this software out on their computers. Now, PCs, it's dead easy. IT can mass deploy it. It's a Microsoft installer package. People don't have to register. It all happens in the background. We pick up their user details and establish that connection. Phones, it can be a little more complicated because it depends on whether you have a mobile fleet of phones that are company owned, or if it's bring your own device type scenarios, but we can accommodate both. But the client out there, that's what's going to handle visual display. That's what gives us the ability to send you back data, and so you can track exactly how successful your message was. Oh, we're up to 95% penetration of our target audience, that kind of thing. How long were these messages on screen? Oh, there's so much we can track. Then the back end, let's talk a little bit about the back end. So all of this will connect into an administrator portal, the back end server infrastructure. We have a software as a service option where your message senders, your administrators, all they have to do is log in to a secure web page to get into your particular portal. We also have local options as well. We have private cloud, and we also have a local on-premise install option where we simply give you the software and you install it and you get a license key and your IT department runs the whole thing. So that's how it works. And we do, on the PCs, it's important to note we tie into Active Directory, and that's important for a couple of reasons. That means we don't have your end users, your employees, don't have to log in or register to the software. It also means we can piggyback on existing distribution lists. So you are not limited to, you don't have to target the entire organization with a message. you can just basically turn on Active Directory groups. Hopefully you have your distribution lists maintained in there, and our software will maintain that. We basically read the information off the PCs bit by bit, and we'll maintain a copy and keep that up to date. And then you just turn it on. Whoever you have as an administrator gets to turn it on. So in the admin portal, I'm going to just quickly whiz through a few screenshots here. There's a lot that you can do in our admin portal. We really have built to scale for large organizations. You can have more than one person using it for different purposes. You can have things basically invisible to some folks, available to others. It's really, really flexible. But essentially you'll go in, you'll create a message. We'll have your brand, whatever branding you want preloaded there for your messages. And we have a very simple system. We use a series of tabs. We just have you work across these tabs to set up your message. And you put in your content. It's all HTML based. You can choose a date range for a message and automatically have it removed off your audience's computers when it becomes obsolete. That keeps the load on the computers relatively stable. It's not like email where you end up with massive archives and having to go in there to sort stuff out. And really the only difference to sending out maybe a mass email broadcast, it's the same thing. You would choose a distribution list, you would put in your message. Oops, I missed a slide. The only additional step you'd have in our tool is, of course, setting up visual display options. How do we want it to appear? How long is it going to be on screen? All that. So it really does not take a lot of time to set these up. There's a lot of reporting in here too, but I just want to get back to the other tool types. We're already at 28 minutes, and I really want to keep this relatively high level. But just realize we have a lot of reports in here. We have global reports, we have message-specific reports, reports on administrator activity, reports showing you, okay, what messages are live out there for this particular audience member or this particular site. We have lots of information in here for you. Right, so this one, the next tool, let's go down a slightly different path. Screensavers. I love our screensaver tool. So instead of one corporate screensaver that IT has to mass deploy, our solution is more like digital signage, where you can add and remove and get really digital dynamic content out there. So what we do, let me just move on one slide. What we do, our software that gets installed on the computers will take over the local screensaver choice. So if somebody has their Starfield on, we're going to force it over to SnapComms, the SnapComms SCR, the SnapComms screensaver. And when screensaver kicks in, instead of one content item, our screensaver is going to source any visuals, whether they're flash or still slides or whatever you want to publish. It's going to source a series of whatever is published and play it in sequence as the screensaver. So this little visual is hopefully, you have information you want to get out. You can send that to a specific distribution list, give it a lifespan. That's going to be added to other content that might already be there cached on that computer from the other messages, other groups in the organization. They can be interactive too. You can set these up and enable hyperlinks if you want to use screensavers to drive people to more information. And now Cox is one example I love. They've deployed it nationwide. And these are some still slides. Their corporate office out in Atlanta will showcase the top stories from their intranet each week. They put out new information every week. And these are some really old ones that they shared with me. So those will be out cycling across the country on everybody's computer. And in their organization, screensavers kick in at 15 minutes, and they go into power save at 30. So they have a 15-minute window across the computers for this content to show. What they also did, they trained up admins in each division, each location. They taught them how to add in their own screensaver content. So someone out here near me in California at the Cox office, they'll be seeing the corporate information, but interspersed with that are going to be the local information, the promotions that are just affecting their region, maybe the Cox Conserves Hero Awards for their area. They're going to be seeing the corporate information, that's going to be reinforced, but the local stuff will be there, and it's only going to be there for them. So each person, you can end up with every individual with pretty much a customized set of slides that really apply to them. And I'll just show you this quickly. So I'm pulling up my message history window, and if you look here, I have each of these are different screensaver elements that have been sent out to me. I'm part of the distribution list. They've been downloaded. They're cached on my computer. So what I want to do, I'm going to first pull up this one. I'm going to put my computer into screensaver mode, and you'll see, I'm just going to show you an element, and we'll see it switch. So right now we're looking at, you can see this is PowerPoint clearly, and these are shifting quite quickly. It's just the settings in the screensaver element. But just to give you an idea, we see some companies, this is a hospital example, where they put up all sorts of information daily. You can see they welcome new employees, they talk about their awards. There's so many things you can reinforce in screensavers. Okay, and I think this is the last slide, and we're probably going to see my computer just switch into something else. There we go. Here's a single slide reminder about IT support details. This you can see is, you might not notice this is stretched actually. We have fit to scale, we have stretch, but they're a completely different item. We've just cycled to a completely different second item. So hopefully that gives you an idea of the screensavers. So IT doesn't have to run them. Marketing, corporate comms, employee comms, you can hand it over to them, and they can safely get out screensaver information without having IT needing to do it. Right, so that's another great one. Really, if you're in corporate communications, there's so much information that's important, that's strategic, but not necessarily worthy of an interruption. That's where screensavers really shine. Screensavers and wallpaper, you can take over the desktop background and cycle images there as well if you want to, if you really want to. There are some situations. We have a lot of companies where they're knowledge workers, they're the only ones on their computer. That might be going a little too far to take over the wallpaper. Other companies, they leave their employees the screensavers to do what they want with, and wallpaper is driven by the company, so it really depends. But it's possible. With our software, you can manage that as well and get different messages out. All right, so pop-up quiz surveys. This is another one that can really bring a lot of value into an organization by getting you higher response rates, getting you information back so much more efficiently than when you send these out by email or put them on your intranet. So this will be familiar. We've seen it with the alerts. So for a quiz or a survey, you can send through a corner prompt, invite them to take your quiz or survey, and you preset this, how long it's going to be on screen in the corner, and you can preset how many times are we going to try to get them to take the quiz. Maybe unlimited. Maybe you send this back until they complete it. Maybe you say, look, we'll try 4 times. If they don't complete it, we're not going to bother them again. It's really up to you. And once they click on that, they'll get their survey. If they get halfway through it, we'll save their answers. We're still going to prompt them to complete it and submit. So you can have that recurrence just to catch your stragglers until they submit answers. And with this too, you can have a learning moment. You can turn this on or off, the ability to show them what kind of score they got, what are the correct answers, what were your answers. That's entirely possible. And of course, all the responses get collated into reports, so you can go in and analyze the data, see who responded. So an example, we have, this is an old Virgin Media template. Virgin Media are the cell phone, broadband stores in the UK. They use our tools for retail communications, and one of the things they use it for is a daily product-related quiz question for all their sales reps in their retail stores. And you can imagine if you're in a a Sprint, AT&T store, my goodness, new handsets are coming out all the time. There's so much you need to know about the products. So they'll send out a daily quiz question, and it will reinforce what they need to know. It also, they get the data back on what people got right. Are people really missing this question? They don't really know. Oh, look, they're confusing these 2 handsets. Gives them that kind of information back, so pulse checks, constant pulse checks on where the knowledge gaps are. But really, it's more about giving them that question to have a little training, little learning moment once a day. The nice thing about our tool, those sales reps are not on the back office computers all the time. You know, they're out on the floor. We're going to catch them when they're active on their devices. We're going to catch them, you know, when they log into their back office computer. We're going to see they're active. We're going to pop up the corner prompt here. And we're going to showcase that first. It's not going to be buried in email, and it's going to come back if they don't complete it. Now on the phones, they'll get a push notification. So when you broadcast out a quiz to the phone, that's not necessarily going to pick, you know, well, it's going to be there in their notifications when they look on their phone, right? It's going to show up in the push notification area. So now another example. We have a company that sends out a daily bulletin. They decided to turn off email, which was so overloaded with announcements. They curated their announcements into a daily bulletin for this particular division. That's what we're looking at on the left. But they wanted to make sure not just that they opened it and read it, they wanted to make sure they understood it, so they used our quiz. At the end of this newsletter, there's a link, test your knowledge. And they put together a quiz each day that actually, you know, finds out, did they understand what they read? Did they click through on these more links to go to the internet details? Did they read it? They found that massively successful. They had a Gen Y audience who loved taking these little quizzes and getting the answers right, gave them a lot of satisfaction. They had a really surprisingly good response. You know, people didn't see it as a big brother thing. They really saw it as fun. Right. Also, now you can have quizzes, surveys. You can set them to be anonymous. And if you do, we will sanitize all the reporting so you cannot link particular answers to a particular user. We wipe out all of the user names. And also, once you send something out and you mark it as confidential, there's no way to reverse that. You're not allowed to go back in as an administrator and turn it back on. So that is a possibility for these. Another way we see people using these, just wrapping up here, for surveys, this is a store manager survey, Virgin Media again. You know, they have some good ways they're using it, so I like to talk about them. A store manager, you know, imagine you must have people where they're not on the computer all day. They're going to get on the computer at some point, but not necessarily, they're not on there all day long. So for those folks, as soon as they log in, they get that little prompt that says, hey, we have our survey. Please take this survey. Give us back some information. Just, you know, this kind of delivery of the survey and the repeats until it's submitted, that's what drives the high response rates. And we've had several companies where it's worked so much better than their current methods, which is usually email, sending a link in email, SurveyMonkey, SurveyGizmo. It's worked so much better, they've reduced their sample size. They actually reduced their distribution list. They survey fewer people because they get such a better response rate. They get statistically relevant data back from a smaller sample size. And what the result of that is, they can survey more often. They can send this out once a quarter instead of twice a year, but people, their end users, are still seeing it all, you know, the same amount of time because they remove, you know, they reduce the sample size. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Oh, this is the same slide. I won't go into that. But the last tool, just to quickly cover here, is our newsletter tool. We have a newsletter tool. Sounds like a constant contact and email newsletter, but it's not. What it is, there's a few differences. It is an HTML newsletter type tool. But the first difference, we bypass email. We'll use our ticker, and you can set it up to automatically be delivered, you know, to notify people that there's a new newsletter out once a day, once a week. And you can even have your headline automatically just scroll all your article headlines of what's in that newsletter. Another difference, we template up the graphic design. You split it up into sections. You know, we preset all the layout. The table of contents automatically generates. If you have 2 items one week and 25 the next week, the formatting, the visual design is going to scale to fit that. Sections are just going to disappear if they're empty. The other sections will move up. Everything expands and contracts to fit your content. And the intent there is to reduce all that time it takes, you know, with graphic designers and communications teams to actually produce these newsletters. And there's 2 more differences. One's mentioned here. Each newsletter, each article can have a different lifespan. If there's something in there that you want to run for a month, something else you want to run for a week, entirely possible. Your content can be very dynamic. You can set a different start and expiry date and time, well, date really, for each article that you have. Now, Vodafone was one of our flagship customers in a state of email overload. You know, email was ineffective, so people send more. That's what happens, right? If people stop reading the announcements in email, we just get more of it. That was happening to them. I remember them mentioning that team meetings, you know, so much time in team meetings was taken up with announcements. The managers had to just go through all the announcements to ensure that people got them. You know, half an hour team meetings just taken up with relaying information. And this is a technology company, right? This is a technology company. So what they did, they set up a corporate newsletter. They set up an employee newsletter. They didn't want to stop people from communicating. They really didn't want to ban them from emailing or sending out messages. But what they did, the comms team said, look, we have these beautiful newsletters. Here's where you go. Just click to submit your article here. You know, we have a really easy way that people can submit content. You just have them fill out a form. So it's all preset in terms of the graphic design. All you have to do is look at the actual content as an editor. Yeah, so they set those up. They're like, please don't send email anymore. Here's where you go. So they consolidated a lot of that information that creates those interruptions that suck up so much time during people's days. So one interruption a week for the corporate news, 1 interruption a week in a news ticker headline, you know, all the information's there. Click on what you're interested in. The other, you know, and then 1 for the employees. But then what the beauty of this was, by consolidating a lot of that noise into a channel where they don't have to take a lot of time to produce the actual visual content, it freed up their corporate team to be able to showcase what was most important in the organization. So now you have someone in the HR division. They put the newsletter piece in, but they go to the employee comms team and they say, hey, this is really important. It's not enough to have it in the newsletter and on the intranet. We need something else. So this gave the employee comms team enough time to really go, okay, let's schedule it as a screensaver 2 weeks from now. Oh, look, we'll put it in a ticker, an individual ticker next Wednesday. So they were able to ensure that the pop-up alerts and the tickers, survey quizzes, those aren't overloaded at all, because they do have governance around what goes in them, and they have the capacity now to manage all those announcements. So it's been very successful. They've been able to make sure that what's most critical gets showcased in the best way. And the newsletter helped them with that. It managed to free up their time to be able to do that with a small team. All right, so I'm coming near to the end. I've talked about the technology. I've talked about our tools and some of the use cases. And really, I want to open it up for questions now. And so have a think. If you have any questions, you'll find in the GoToWebinar control panel, you should find a questions area where you can write in any questions that you have. And while you're having a think about that, let me just go through this with you. So our software can scale from organizations with 100 employees to organizations with 200,000 employees. That's our largest deploy right now, is just over 200,000. And we recognize it's quite different to email to intranets. You know, you need to test it. You need to validate it. We figure you need to validate it from a technical point of view, from you know, is it going to do what you want, and what do audience members think of it? Are they going to be happy with us using it, and what should we use it for? Okay, so that's a long-winded way of saying that, hey, we recognize you need to test it, and we'll give it to you for 30 days to test on our cloud or on a local installation so that you have time to vet it and really make sure that there's the value you suspect might be there is there. And you can even test it with a pilot audience. We're more than happy about that. So listen, I don't see any questions coming through. So I will, unless one comes through, I'm going to wrap it up. I'm just going to say, please reach out to us if you have questions. If you do want to set up a trial, if you want us to demo to a team of people, if you want to have any sort of discussion about where the value might be for your particular situation, we'd love to talk to you. And thank you. Thank you so much for finding us. Thank you for your time and your attention. And I've been recording this webinar, just so you know, and I will be sending you a link to that recording too if you want to refer back to anything. So thanks again. Thanks so much. I hope you have a great day, and we will hopefully connect with you sometime in the future. Bye-bye.